everyone. My name is Bryn Boice, Associate Artistic Director of Commonwealth Shakespeare Company. Thank you for joining us today for our second installment of Much Ado About Much Ado, a new series that takes a look inside our upcoming production of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, opening July 20th on Boston Common. Today, I'm going to be chatting with actors Debra Wise and Hernandez about the show, the process thus far, and their characters, Dogberry and Verges. For our patrons using audio described services, and for those of you listening along, I am a white woman. I have blondish chin-length hair. I have freckles, and I'm wearing round glasses and a navy shirt. I'll have our guests self-describe in just a moment. Before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize the Indigenous land on which we reside as an expression of appreciation, awareness, and gratitude. I am currently in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Debra is in Cambridge, and JJ is in Chelsea on colonized land in the traditional tribal territory of the Pawtucket and Massachusetts peoples. We would also like to acknowledge that the digital technology that we're using together today is not available in many Indigenous communities. To learn more about CSC's work toward racial equity, including this process of land acknowledgement, please visit commshakes.org/LA. Today's program is free, but we do hope that you consider a donation of $10 or any amount that is meaningful to you to support our artists this summer. To donate, visit commshakes.org/donate. In these continuing uncertain times, your support of the arts is more important than ever. So CSC is best known for its annual free Shakespeare on the Boston Common, and we are putting together an outstanding production of Much Ado About Nothing to share with you this year, directed by Megan Sandberg-Zakian. My two guests today are part of the utterly amazing cast that she has assembled. Let's introduce these two. Debra, would you like to go first?
Sure. Debra Wise. I am a white woman in her 60s with medium length blondish hair. I have to look at my reflection because I change it, relatively frequently. In fact, my husband thinks I should shave it for the role in this play. Wearing a high-necked blue shirt.
And JJ, Jaime.
Hello, I'm Jaime Jose Hernandez, but everybody, we're all friends here, so call me JJ. I am a Latin man in his early 20s with a full beard and a short haircut, wearing a brown plaid shirt.
Awesome. Well, welcome, welcome. I have to start by gushing about both of you. I have had the great pleasure of working with you both, and I can attest you're both extremely funny and talented, and I'm so glad that you're both part of this show this summer. Can you tell us just a little bit about your relationship to Shakespeare and to CSC? Any thing you want to say about either of these two fine institutions? JJ, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd be happy to go first. Well, with CSC, the CSC2 program, I auditioned for it back in 2019 and you were at the table, and I think I told you when we first started rehearsals for Midsummer, I was like, I was god awful. Like I did not know what I was saying. I appreciate that you acknowledged that. You were like, well, you said it very nicely. You were like, you weren't ready. You said it the nicest way you possibly could have. Yeah, so I think during the pandemic, we did that virtual production of Much Ado, and I learned a lot from there. Even though it was virtual, it was very fun to basically learn Shakespeare through a production. And before that, I did one other production of Midsummer Night's Dream, where I think I had 5 lines. It was a long time ago, and I was just kind of observing, and I had 5 lines. And did I know what I was saying? I don't remember if I remembered what I was saying. But yeah, so then you asked me to do the CSC2, and I always felt like, I always come into rehearsal rooms as an observer, because I acknowledge that, when I'm in a room of a bunch of talented people, I can only aspire to, get to their level. So I really observe, and I learned a lot from observing. When we started rehearsals for Midsummer, I felt like I learned so much from you and from everyone else. And that was a lot of fun, doing Midsummer Night's Dream, and having a larger role in a stage production of Shakespeare, which, I feel like made me have a bigger appreciation for Shakespeare, because I told you I never really liked Shakespeare growing up. We read it in school, like high school. I hated it. I was like, this is this makes me not want to be an actor anymore. But
Yeah.
I think performing it, you get a new found appreciation, which I certainly have, and I really hope to continue doing Shakespeare throughout my career. And I thank you and Comm Shakes for letting me appreciate something that actually it does belong to everybody.
That's awesome. I'm going to unpack just for a second what CSC2 is for our audience, because I think it's a really cool program. So CSC2 is a group of early career professional actors who they do these student matinees for students around the Boston area. And they work and train with us in April, May, and then they come back and they play roles on the Boston Common with like this year, they're going to be in Much Ado, but then they also are our monologue coaches for our apprentice company, which is really cool. So you get sort of not only an acting opportunity, but a teaching opportunity with this company. It's pretty cool. And now JJ, who hated Shakespeare and maybe wasn't ready in 2019, is now going to be on the Boston Common and is coaching people and is terrific. And I really love working with him. Deb, how about you tell us about your relationship with Shakespeare and with CSC?
Sure. So the first professional production I ever saw was when I was 17 for my birthday. My parents took me to see Twelfth Night at Arena Stage in DC. And I remember Robert Prosky, wonderful actor, was Toby Belch. The costumes ranged from him as imagined as a riverboat captain to Olivia and her entourage being like Scheherazade. Oh. And Feste was this, like he was stepped out of a Magritte painting. He was in this like a clown-ish large black suit and a bowler hat. At the end of the show, confetti and ribbons dropped as the audience was leaving. And I thought, what a remarkable way to spend your professional time. I couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
It really wasn't until college then that I read the canon. And I remember for a class, I was in a study abroad program in London. And I like you, JJ, I had always had trouble reading the verse. But I was reading Lear, and when I finished it, I was weeping. And I remember saying aloud to my friends who were studying with me in the apartment, I have to read more. It seemed to make total sense at the time, but we all laughed. And the only Shakespeare production I have been in professional was actually a giant shadow puppet play that was commissioned by the Boston Symphony, the theater company that spent most of my career. The Underground Railway Theater did a lot of puppetry. And for many years, we created these sort of animated stained glass, if you can imagine that, large scale shadow puppet productions with symphony orchestras, and we toured them nationally. And the Boston Symphony wanted to create something, a new piece of music that would celebrate the 100th anniversary of the hall. So we were able to create this production with the composers, Roberto Xavier Rodriguez, from New Mexico. He imagined Caliban as a deposed Montezuma. Anyway, without getting into a lot of detail, I played both Miranda and Ariel, but I was behind a shadow puppet screen, and the whole text was only 8 pages long, right? Because it was music adapted for this context. So since then, I've enjoyed working on texts, most recently from Lear and Hamlet with Tina Packer. Yeah. Always wanting to be able to do a Shakespeare production. So I'm just so delighted to be in this. I was in a couple of readings at Commonwealth Shakes, which were just wonderful. Most recently, Measure for Measure.
Yes. And you were Mistress Overdone, were you not?
I was.
Yes, I was. That's great. Well, so speaking of that, that comic character, the two of you are playing Dogberry. Deb is playing Dogberry, and Verges. JJ is playing Verges, and I'd love your perspective on the character that you're playing in Much Ado. These very fun characters. As it stands on this is like the beginning of the second week of rehearsal. So what are you thinking so far? Tell me all. Dogberry thoughts.
Well, first of all, I'm really looking forward, JJ, to getting into rehearsals with you, developing our relationship. We had a couple little opportunities to do some improvs, but
Yeah,
other than that, it's nascent. So maybe this week we'll get into it more.
I think Thursday we'll get on our feet.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Well, I'll just jump in, JJ, if it's okay, to just because I love Dogberry, so I have to enthuse about him. Some of the things I love about him is that he is so earnest, and he's both really self-effacing and kind. Like he says at one point, I would not hang a dog, much less a man with any honesty in him, right? And he's a like part of the neighborhood watch, so they're talking about infractions and potential punishments. But he also has this huge ego. He's really self-aggrandizing. And in comparison to Verges, at one point he says, and two men ride of a horse, one must ride behind. All men are not alike, alas, good neighbor, right? So I'm really intrigued at their relationship and being both very friendly and I don't know, Dogberry seems like eager to insert some status. And you, JJ, when you first were letting me know that we were both cast, you keep calling me boss. Hey, boss.
Oh yeah, yeah. Through some emails, and when I saw you at Central Square.
I love that,
Yeah,
boss.
I don't know. It's very interesting. The relationship. I mean, one of the things that pops out to me is that scene where we have with Leonardo, where we're sharing the news of how we got two people. Like I tell him we got two people, and then Dogberry's like, no. But we do have two people.
Yes.
It's just very, I don't know. It's like, I guess Verges, I guess he's used to this kind of treatment, that this is normal within their relationship. And that's something I'm very excited to examine. I feel like Verges, while Dogberry is sort of, the exterior, outward motive with his prep talks and stuff like that, that Verges is more of the support system of his interior by, reaffirming all the things that he says to the people, especially towards the watch. Because you're my boss, and that's what I have to do.
They
You
remind
also
me.
step in when he forgets things. Oh, excuse
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bryn.
No, I was going to say they remind me a little bit, and I'm kind of I love TV, so this is a TV reference, but they remind me a lot of Michael and Dwight Schrute from The Office. The sort of the way that it's like that Verges sometimes sounds like he knows a lot more, but Dogberry has the status, right? So Dogberry is the boss, the status, even though he knows everything. Shut up, I'm going to say that. There's something really fun about the relationship, and so the question I wanted to ask you is this a symbiotic relationship? Can they get along without each other?
It's hard for me to imagine Dogberry without Verges.
Yeah, in a work setting, and also, I feel like, well, I don't know how much their personal lives go into, but I feel like they must know each other outside of work, at least. So they probably spend a lot of time with each other, and like what you said, Bryn, about do they need each other? I feel like we do sort of need each other, in terms of reminders and staying on top of things.
Right. Well, that's great. I'd love to just shift gears for a second about how you got into acting in the first place. How did you decide this was the thing? JJ, you want to go first?
Yeah, I sort of, my sister was in middle school drama club, and I remember my dad got a BlackBerry. Back when that was like the big thing. and they gave him like a camcorder at the Verizon store. So we started using the camcorder and we started filming like really dumb videos like the world is ending. So we'd like grab the camcorder and start shaking it like, oh my God, it's an earthquake and stuff like that. And that was when I was like 6. So I was a director when I was at 6 years old. So watch out. So from then, my sister was in the middle school drama club. I saw her, but you had to be in 7th and 8th grade to do the drama club. I was like 5th and 6th because my sister was like 2 years older than me. So I saw her do that. She hated it because she only did it to spend time after school. But I always was like, I would love to do that. So I did it. And the first show we did was called Just Another High School Play, which was this absolutely terribly funny play, which we did in middle school for some reason. And it was just, to just give a gist about the show, there's a whole number about Little Women, the classic novel Little Women in drag. And we did that in middle school. I had a musical number. I don't know why we did it. But after that, I graduated high school. I did not want to go to college. I think this is something me and Debra share. We didn't really get like a BFA or BA in theater. After that, I just started auditioning for theaters because I knew I didn't want to go to college. So I just started auditioning for theaters, and from then on, I eventually I was cast in some shows, and I've worked my way up from small things, and now I'm sort of running my own theater company with the folks over at Theater Chelsea. So I mean that's the short run of it. I could go on for hours.
I love though that you started out with the camcorder and directing. I think that's really fun. That's so great.
That's on my film resume.
Deb, you've had a long and illustrious career so
long
far.
career.
Like long is a good long. But I'd love to know that, like, what was the sort of, that's it, this is the day. Did it have anything to do with the 12th Night production you saw, or were you bitten earlier or later?
Well, I sort of lived in stories as a child. I think I read Alice in Wonderland Through Looking Glass annually from the time I was 8. I just did. That was what I did. And so it was fertile ground, right, for the theater.
Yeah.
12 Nights when I fell in love with theater. But, and I, like you, JJ, I did it in school. The high school I went to was a very small high school. They didn't have a drama club. So I started one. And I remember we did, our first production was Skin of Our Teeth. I remember sitting in the stacks at the public library, just looking through books of plays. I didn't know what I don't know what attracted me to this mammoth play. I thought it was crazy and wonderful, and it was crazy and wonderful. But anyway, so that was all sort of process of discovery. And I did the things you're supposed to do, musicals. I was in Pajama Game and I played Adelaide and balls and all that stuff. But it wasn't. But I really, really was interested in social change, and I thought that's what I want to do professionally. I don't know how. Maybe I'm going to be a lawyer. Maybe I'm good. I didn't know what that meant. So in college, I never, like you were saying, JJ, I took theater classes for fun, but I never thought about it seriously. But deep down, of course, that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I discovered Bertolt Brecht and I discovered that politically engaged theater was a thing, because I had never seen it. And I discovered the long traditions of theaters that used theater as a way of creating conversation about important social justice issues and animating them through personal stories. And that's what I think. It was only then that I decided, right out of college, since I had no children, I wasn't responsible for anybody. I might as well fall on my face. So a group of us started a company, because I did not think of myself as somebody who would go to New York and pound the pavement. I wanted to make theater more than I wanted to be an actor, although I wanted to be an actor. So Underground Railway Theater was founded in the 70s, and we toured for 30 plus years, social justice plays to all kinds of different audiences across the country. And then eventually, when theaters like ours sort of folded up their tents in the 90s, for some reason, social change groups weren't using theater as much as they did earlier in the 90s. There you go. That's a segue. Anyway, it was then that we decided to build a theater with some colleagues, and that became Central Square Theater, to try to pursue our mission there. And just to end that little trajectory, I'm actually leaving my leadership position with Underground Railway Theater, which has been my career since my 20s, at the end of this month.
I am so amazed by the work that you have done, and yes, want to give you snaps and congratulations for a really truly stellar and impressive, amazing, and socially conscious career.
I'm so glad I got to work with you, Bryn, at Central Square Theater. You directed Half-Life of Marie Curie, and that was such a great adventure.
It's a great experience. I'm so glad that was able to happen too before you go, right? It's so great. Such a blast. I'm going to circle back to your segue on the 90s, because that, for this particular production, Megan's concept revolves around the 90s era, coming back from the Gulf War, these soldiers that are going to be here, and just the sort of energy of the 1990s. What might you want audiences to know about this production? What's your connection and feeling about the 90s, or your favorite things about these possibilities that Megan has unleashed?
I can give my 2 cents, but I don't remember much of the 90s.
I was gonna say, were you alive? So yes, your 2 cents.
Oh yes.
What are you finding out?
I'm finding out a lot of music and the culture. I mean, I did. Megan always brings up the movie Birdcage, which I've seen many times, and I actually do love that movie. I could see that the entertainment business had a whole vibe to it. It seemed like it was fairly, vibrant in its colors, and also had some darker, not darker sides, because darker is a weird connotation, but sort of a grungier side to it, which goes back to the Gulf War, that is brought up a lot of times in the show. I think the 90s had a very cool vibe to it. I don't know much else to say about it, because I don't remember much of anything involved in the status stuff, but I appreciate it.
Nice. How about you, Deb? Connection and feeling.
Well,
I was
thinking about that. I was thinking about the 90s this morning, and I of course, the first thing that comes to my mind is what we were touring at the time. I mean, at the early part of the 90s, we didn't shift gears into the latter part of the 90s. So we were touring a show called the Christopher Columbus Follies. We had two satirical political cabarets, and the Christopher Columbus Follies and Intoxicating both ended up being plays about environmental justice and environmental racism, actually, because that's where the research kind of took us. What was Columbus's legacy? Racism and environmental degradation. Okay, let's laugh about that. So those were the enterprises, my artistic enterprises. And so I felt like there's something about the 90s that felt like some things that seemed to be truisms were kind of unmoored. Like it was like I don't know, the era of Clinton. It was like there was hope and trouble, right? Hope and trouble. Both. And in terms of popular culture, so I think about it more in terms of those activities and also political landscape. In terms of popular culture, I was wondering today, why wasn't I more aware, except for things like I think I began to fall in love with Johnny Depp as an actor crush in like Gilbert Grape, and I don't know, that kind of popular stuff. But I had 2 children. I had one child at 89 and the other at 91. So no wonder I was in a blur.
No wonder.
I feel like I can tell you maybe a lot about the children's songs that were recorded.
Yes.
whatever.
Well,
But that's,
it's interesting that you say that hope and trouble. That is definitely what I remember about that time as well. And I think that really goes along with the themes of Much Ado. There's
yes.
such hope and some great trouble. It is much ado about nothing, right? You think about that phrase, much ado, the trouble. I mean, that's nothing. But that's a really interesting way of framing it. Both these two things happening at once. We have such hope and such trouble. That's really cool.
And the pun on nothing, right, is also that the fact that it was pronounced noting, and it also had to do with what you noted, what you understood to be true, right? That I think that there's something about, I mean, it's true in every decade, but when culture is, when you feel the earth moving underneath your feet, right? And what you understand, what you note to be true is on Tuesday is not going to be your understanding on Thursday. So that feels like that's really relevant for this play
Very
too.
relevant. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
and the gender stuff is just
yes.
great. I just love, I hope without, I don't want to spill any beans, but there's going to be a lot of interesting and fun and lively and affirmative playing around with gender identity in the play.
Yes, I'm very excited about that too. And we're definitely going to be talking with some of the people that are doing that soon. So stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned. This is amazing. I am so very excited to see this play. I, of course, was before, but now I really am. Holy cow. I keep saying to people, this is definitely the play we need for this moment. It's joyous, it's deep, it's reflective, it's fun, and it's a comedy. It's really fun. Folks, please stay tuned for more info on Much Ado as it comes. Thank you, Deb and JJ. It was so awesome having you on Much Ado about Much Ado today for our comic relief edition, our Dogberry and our Verges. As we wrap up, folks, please don't forget to follow us at Comm Shakes on all social media platforms to stay informed about all of our upcoming events. Many thanks to all who have joined us, and you have a great day. Bye, Deb. Bye, JJ. Thank you so much.
Bye. So glad to see you both.
See you on the Common.